All right, this is my talk. PowerShell, be a cool blue kid. Let's get started. Here's some of the stuff we're going to go through. I'm going to give you a little intro of myself. You really have to actually listen to that. Some basics of PowerShell. We'll go over some files and file system stuff, as well as user access, a little bit of systems management, and then some wrap up. All right, I'm a system analyst for a nonprofit organization in Southeast Michigan. I'm also the founder of the PowerShell, Michigan PowerShell's users group, which is kind of not doing anything right now, so that's hopefully going to change later this year. I am a moderator on the Hey Scripting Guy forums. If you're not familiar with the Hey Scripting Guy website at Microsoft, it is an area to help you go learn PowerShell. Gives you actually things you can use in your job instead of here's a variable, print a variable. It's actually really cool. But they have a forums, and I'm a moderator on there. As well as a judge, Microsoft has scripting games every year to help you learn PowerShell, either from basic or advanced. Judging is fun, but that's a lot of scripts. So you should try it out if you want to use PowerShell, learn PowerShell. It's really cool. I'm a member of MySec, whether they like it or not. I'm an avid gamer and a huge sports fan, so if my phone goes off in the middle of here, it's probably the White Sox losing. And I'm a father to a future hacker. He does crazy things that I don't even think a 2-year-old could do yet, and a husband to a wonderful wife who has him this weekend, and I feel bad for her. I'm not an expert. I like to pretend I am, but I'm really not. I'm really MySec's PowerShell expert, and yeah, they probably suffer through that. There's a ton of sysadmin stuff in here. It's blue side. That's what I normally do. I don't do red side, but a lot of sysadmin stuff does tend to technically translate over to the blue side. My employer doesn't feel this way, or either does Microsoft. I feel like every slide has to have that line in there, so that's why that's there. And as you find out, I think I'm funny, and I talk too fast. So get over it. If you don't like it, there's the doors. So, all right. Let's get going. Anyway, hopefully you all have seen this if you use Windows 7 and up. It's in the other versions of Windows as well, but you should use this. Looks like a DOS window, but it's a lot cooler than the DOS window. If you haven't heard, what PowerShell is a task automation framework. I automate basically everything, from tweeting at these guys down here in MySec to sending my wife the grocery list. It's installed in every Microsoft operating system. It is getting better, so much better. Once you start using PowerShell and manage Windows, there is literally, you're going to wonder why they haven't done this in years. I heard someone comment today saying that PowerShell makes Windows actually usable. Well, I was like, well, that's kind of cool. And the current version is 3.0. I have some 3.0 stuff in the very end here, but it's still new, and I didn't want to give you guys that stuff. So there is tons of support. I support everything on here except the compellent one on here. The compellent one's on here because I'm going to do a talk later this year or next year with Wolfgang Gorlick, some DevOps stuff. But there is deep integration with all these products. You can, I don't remember the last time I opened actually a GUI to manage half those products, which is kind of cool. All right, we're going to go over some little basic language stuff. If you know what PowerShell is, you can check your phone for the next little bit. A commandlet is like a command, but it's a lot cooler. It is, that's Microsoft's actual definition, but it is a command. You can make your own, which we'll get into in a couple minutes. That's when you read about PowerShell, you're going to hear the commandlets. It is, there's some examples up here, like get help, write host, register event object. It's a very simple thing to pick up and learn. You type in get-command, it'll give you a whole bunch of commands, and it's actually, you can look at it and see what you want to, you can find out what you want to do. There's a naming convention. When you get scripts or download stuff off the internet that is PowerShell, it should follow the verb noun format. If it doesn't, then you might want to point them to the verb and the here's how to write PowerShell code stuff. But it's you'll see a lot of people don't use it. But there is a naming convention, and you should stick by it. There's 98 verbs that Microsoft uses, like show, get, register, stop, terminate. Never use terminate, but that's cool. Then there's aliases for those people who don't want to type out get-mailbox. There, I believe that's GMB. There's get child item is actually dir. That's the PowerShell version of dir, but you can type dir and it'll do the same thing. Or ls for you Unix guys. You should not use, this is just a side note, don't use aliases in your scripts, because if you share it and someone's like, well, what the heck is that? It makes it easier to read if you type the full command name. So, and you want to see all the aliases, get-alias. You can make your own too. So if you don't like to type, you can make your own. You can alias your whole thing if you want. And get help is your friend. Make sure that you, thanks Chris. You use get help. I use it all the time. If I'm not typing get help once a day, I'm not trying. Yes, they do. Tab completion is in the console and the built-in editor. They give you an editor too, which is really cool. It will now version 3 will tab complete in the editor. So and and IntelliSense too. Yes, IntelliSense. All you people who use IDEs, IntelliSense is like awesome. Wolf likes IntelliSense. There, for the Unix guys, don't worry. You can type things you know, man, cat, cp, ls. There's multiple aliases for a lot of commands. I think it's kind of weird, but whatever makes people happy. Now we're going to talk about running scripts real quick. Out of the box, you download a script from my website, my GitHub site, whatever, you won't be able to run it. You have to change execution policy. And when this first came out, people were like, oh man, it's a security feature to stop you run scripts. And then people like Relic pop up, or Matt, who writes the Powersploit module, show that, yeah, really, when you run PowerShell.exe, you can say bypass the execution policy. Execution policy is just basically stops you from doing something stupid, like out of the box. You can get by it, but it's there. You can set it system-wide or based on user. I'm a fan of just setting it by user instead of globally doing that. There's a switch in a command that you can run, but that's on the internet, and we're not going to cover that today. And it is not a security measure. It's just to stop dumb people from being dumb. This is what I love about PowerShell, is you can make tools. How many times have you like, man, I wish I had something that I could do to do, I have X, I need to repeat it a million times. It's what I do a lot of the time. I make my scripts reusable, shareable. I share them on my blog. I share them with MySec members. I share them all over the time. That is one of the awesome things about this. Then there's a huge community behind making tools and sharing tools. There's Poshcode, there is the Microsoft site for getting scripts. There's tons of different places. So this literally it's like bash scripting or batch scripting, but there's a lot more formal stuff behind it. This is part of that. Modules. Modules are a bunch of scripts or a compiled code. There's some other stuff that you can put together to make and share those tools. One of the examples I have later is I have a module to help edit host files. And it's just 3 functions that are pieced together that I can import into my session and go along. I'll show you guys that in a little bit. It is good for repackaging scripts and sharing scripts. PSCX, which Wolf mentioned in his .NET talk earlier, is a great collection of scripts and it's always updated. Office 365, you can manage the entire online web version of Microsoft software via that way. And NTFS security is another cool one that we'll get into here in a minute. How many times have you run a command and wished that you knew what happened, what the output was? PowerShell has these 2 wonderful commands built in called start and stop transcript. They will record your command and the output for everything you do. So say you're changing a bunch of users over to a group. You can log that whole thing so you have actually a backup of what you did. So you can go back and say, yeah, I actually moved that on this day at this time. So it's really cool. A couple last minute notes. I don't know how many people are familiar with programming and yada, yada, yada. Everything's an object, which means that you can take it and pipe it using the pipeline and keep on manipulating stuff until the end. Usually when you build a PowerShell statement, the end thing is always your formatting. So I'm going to take users, I'm going to modify them, and then I'm going to print them out into a text file that I did all this work. Pipeline, like in Unix, Linux, you can pipe one command to another to do variable things. All variables are prefixed by a $sign. And you can name them anything you want, except there's some special variables. I don't recall how many there are, but there's the underscore $sign, which is the current thing in the pipeline, or true and false, yada yada. And anything in this talk works in version 2 or above. So let's talk about file permissions. I don't know about you guys, but I hate file permissions. It's like literally is a pain in my ass. I don't like it. You can GUI, yeah, okay, and xcals and cals. At least I know a lot of people know how to use them, but they're really not user friendly. They really aren't. So built into PowerShell, there's get and set ACL. These things are painful to use at best. And I'll show you an example of that in a second. But if you're using this, you are, you might want to be drinking on lunch. All right. So here's a demo of actually how bad the permissioning in Windows for PowerShell for this is. Here we're going to create a directory real quick. Yeah, look, it already exists. Well, that's okay. This is the command to get the ACL list for that folder. And format list is going to print it into a thing that we can easily read. You see here, there's a whole bunch of stuff. Administrators, NT system, and authenticated users. Basically, this is the default access. So here I'm going to store the ACLs into a variable so that I can act upon them. Here is this right here. We're going to say that we're going to set access rule protection. It is just something you have to do in there. It's I've never ever changed that. So here's what the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set a rule. This is an access control rule that gives domain admin full control over that directory. That is how long. That is painful to type a command prompt. Just literally painful. Here's another, and then this right here, this command will add it to this variable so that we can make sure that that gets applied. We're going to go through and do this again for domain users, and they're going to get the modify permission. We're going to add it to the rule. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, my demo didn't work. It did earlier today. So basically what this is going to do is, when it does work, and demo gods, I taunted them earlier. This basically will set all those permissions on here. All those lines just to set permissions on there, that's painful to me. So you can script it, you could put it in there. If you're going to do the same permissions over and over, you could write a script and send it a folder variable, and off it goes, and it'll permission that folder for you. Or you can write a function and pass it off. I have 2 functions included in my on my GitHub thing in here that actually takes and removes the permission to use USB on a computer. So I had to do it for some DoD project that I was working on. But really, basically, to use this, you have to spend some time in the MSDN documentation. And I don't know how many of you really like MSDN documentation. I don't. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Wolf likes it, too. You guys might want to bond. He does. Yeah, most people have Google as their homepage. Wolf has MSDN. So, hey, there is some help though, and this gentleman Raymond Andre from Microsoft made a nice little PowerShell module to help out with this. So I'm going to show you a little easier how this actually goes, but first I'm going to delete that folder. Good thing there's nothing in there. This is that NTFS security module that's in here. So repackageable scripts, you can download them. I'm just importing them so that I can add the commands into my PowerShell prompt. You can add that line into scripts to get the functionality of these modules. There's tons of them out there. Oh, really? All right, so. You, sir. You, sir. All right. I can at least show you guys this. This uses the pipeline, but it's a whole lot easier. I'm going to get the backup folder. I'm going to add a access control entry for domain admins, access right full control. That's a whole lot easier to write to me. And this is free. This is a wonderful thing to use. Sorry that my demo didn't work. It was pretty cool, but we'll keep on moving. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is I monitor file system changes. And I know that some people have automated tools to do that, but I don't. Not where I work, not before. I needed to monitor a file, make sure that a certain file didn't pop up. Or you can monitor if something gets changed. Like you can monitor the drivers folder, Etsy drivers folder on the computer to see if the host file's changed. So there's a lot of things you can do with this. This note right here about the PowerShell session, though, we're going to take a little digression here for a second. Every time you load a PowerShell window, it's a new PowerShell session. So anything you do in one will not transfer to the other unless it does make system changes. So if it changes permissions, then it's going to stay. But if it is loading a module or doing something like this code example, it's not going to stay. It's going to go away unless you make it persistent some other way. This demo, it can write email, write to hosts, log file, log events, do tons of different other stuff that you can, anything you want to do to send this information to, you can. All right, so hold on one second. I actually need a folder. All right, first I'm setting a variable to development, but this is where it gets kind of cool. Microsoft and PowerShell loves .NET to the enjoyment of me, but to other people, there's issues, especially if you're a straight .NET developer. But we'll go on there. Basically, what this is it's loading the .NET class file system washer. I'm setting this variable, one of the parameters on the variable path, to the file path that we set up earlier. This is going to include all the subdirectories in there and enable raising events. So any time that something is changed, this is setting it to true to actually allow the system to do this. This line right here, next, we're going to set on any created event, we're going to write to the actual host, to the screen, that something was created. This next one changed. This third one deleted. And then the fourth one is renamed. So first we're going to create a file, monitor this.txt. And you see right here, it says that it's actually been created. So if you wanted to send an email that a file was created, you could. You want to log an event entry that the file was created in this directory, so that then you can audit your event logs. Or if do whatever you want to tweet out that there was a file created. You can do all that good stuff. Here we're going to add the word content1 to that file and save it. Then it's going to note that it was changed. And then here's the content, actual content. So get content is like type. It's going to show the content. We're going to rename the file. There's the rename. So basically what this is just showing you that you can basically monitor your system. You can monitor change. You can do a lot of stuff like this, and you can fully automate it so that you can hand it off to people. Oh, hey, I'm doing this here. Let's watch to make sure this has changed. And these are just unregistering to make sure that I don't do anything weird. It's part of you have to do. So. All right, let's move on to users. There's a lot of auditing commands, scripts, functions. Creating users, you can look that up on the internet or do whatever you want. But let's see what information we can gather. Let's see what's going on. Here's a script that actually goes through and lets you view all the local users on a system. So yeah, you could go right-click and whatever. But this actually is if you change the computer to the name of the computer, it'll show you any of the other computer name, the computer you say, what users are on there. And groups the same way. This is basically just changed the type of information you select. Here's where it gets a little weird and a lot of stuff. You'll see a lot. This is to get administrators of the computer, and this is a function. And you can paste this into a PowerShell prompt and use this over and over. So I can say get local administrators space Bob's, Bob01, and it'll get Bob's, the admins on Bob's box. So here, all I'm doing is just giving an example of things that you can do. You can take input and then act upon it using like WMI, and then there's some regex down there for you regex lovers. I don't like regex. How about services? One of the biggest pains that I see a lot of the time is that the service account is running under something I didn't know. Or you find a machine and like, oh hey, who installed that and why is SQL Server running under this person's user? This will let you audit this confirm service account script that's in my GitHub will let you check what service accounts in here. And basically this script will go through and do that. But what I'm showing here is this is essential PowerShell right here. I'm getting a list of computer names. I'm piping it to confirm service accounts. And then all I want is system name, so the computer name, the display name of the service, and then the service it's running under. That is basic PowerShell. This is why I love it, because I can type this in 30 seconds and then audit what I need to audit. Yes, and it's in my GitHub thing that you can download. This right here is the cool part is that you don't have to do just text file. So if you have the Active Directory command list loaded, you can say get all the computers in this OU and then confirm the service counts. You can actually write them in and get all the service counts. So there's a lot of things you can do, but this is essential PowerShell. This is why I love it, because it's easy to use. Yeah, what's up? Exactly. Yes. Using stuff like this, you could audit your computers. What Wolf's saying is you can go and one of the scripts that I used to run was I would actually do this against servers. I'd run these, like check service names, check get admin, stuff like that, and email it to myself once a week just to make sure that everything was still hunky-dory, especially on systems that are kind of exposed, especially on internet-facing servers. You could. And you could say, after select, you could save it to a file and do it that way. Or you can write to a database. There's tons of things you can do. This doesn't have to stop at start name. You can keep on going. You can do whatever you want with it. So it's pretty cool. SIDS. There was a friend of mine does forensics, and we needed the SID of a user on the domain. This is a really easy way to get SIDs. There's a function on my GitHub account that will actually get you the SID. If you type in the domain name and the user, it'll get you any SID. And you don't have to be admin to run this, actually, which is kind of shocking to find out that I didn't know that. How about tracking users? This one, friend Ryan wanted this. This actually will take and scan the security log for login and logouts. That's all those event IDs over there. And then ID encrypted. So it'll give you any user that logs into the computer on that time, since that date, it'll tell you anyone who's logged in there. So where we go into, this gets a little more complicated, but I'm basically doing that statement up there, and then I'm writing it to a computer. So this is basically, I'm doing the hash table up here. The hash table up there is what I'm passing down here. So get win event hash table has all those things in there. So I can go against the computers, I can tell you who logged in on what. So if you basically sent that against a list of all your computers in the environment, you could track where everyone logged in since a certain time and get the time ID encrypted. You can add the username, but it will take forever to run, but you can at least see if there's activity. Want to find out if someone has a profile on a PC? Real easy. We're going to do a user profile. We're going to select SID, last used time, and local path, and you can find out to see if someone logged in on a PC. This is one of the things that I've wrapped into a function that I share at work is, oh, hey, does so-and-so log into the computer? I can find out and target that and see what's going on. All right, let's do a little system management. Editing host files, you know, you have to do it sometimes, at least in my experience. And I don't exactly ever like doing it. I got to remember to go make sure I'm admin, make sure it's not read-only, stuff like that. I made a module that has that does some host file administration, but you have to run it as admin. So let's do a demo of that. I know this one works. So the host file module, I'm just importing it so that I can use it. And the first command that I have in there is show host. So it'll show any line that actually has an IP address and a host name on there, even if it's commented out. So sometimes I do that sometimes, comment out lines just to make sure. But for auditing, this works wonderfully. Here is Wolf's secret server. I did, but you know, it's a local number. Don't worry, I didn't give the external number. You can add it's commandlet that I made with some parameters. Wolf's secret server. It's there somewhere. After I run the add host file entry, now it's inside the host file. So you can add or take away host file entries. And we don't want Wolf's secret server to be everywhere, so let's remove the entry. Now we can see that it's back to normal again. So this is one of the reusable tools that you can do to make sure that you can do that. So here's some firewall fun. This is version 3. These commandlets that are specific to this. This might stop some of Wolf's.net stuff if you can block, because you can block ports and stuff like that. Microsoft added a lot of firewall commandlets to Windows 8. So there's at least 12, 13, 14 commandlets, where before you had to use an API and you had to construct this big, long, complicated thing. Now it's real simple to add rules. Like here's a net firewall rule. We're going to allow all telnet for inbound. Here's the telnet server. Remote addresses, anything on the local subnet we're going to allow. That's simple and straightforward. Here is where it gets cool. This is a block outbound telnet server, but here's what's really cool is the policy store. So from your workstation, if you're an admin, a domain running as a domain admin, and you want to add this rule to the group policy objects that goes out, you add policy store, the domain name and the GPO name, and off it goes. It'll go save it inside that GPO so that you can deploy it easily. So I found that really cool when I was playing with that this weekend. Even cooler is you can do it remotely. So if you have multiple computers where you're admin and you're trying to get some stuff done, and you're not using group policy, I usually generally use this in a DMZ session. So a SIM session is basically a remote connection to a computer, kind of like SSH for Windows. It is encrypted. You can't really sniff the stuff off the wire, the credentials or anything like that. If you can, you're pretty cool. But in all the tests and everything, Microsoft brought some pen testers in to actually test to see if you could actually see it, and they couldn't, which is cool. Basically, I can then automate additions of firewall rules. So like I create a whole bunch of sessions like computer 1, 2, 3, 4, and for each of those I can go and remove the allowed telnet rule. So this is one of the cooler things about PowerShell that in version 8. So I know I'm early, but this is a project that's starting up PowerShell security. Myself and Will Steele, we're working on starting to get some things to be able to, there we go, to be able to manage the security for both red and blue side. So we're just getting started. If anyone wants to contribute or wants to like help out or learn PowerShell while they do it, just let us know. And we're also looking for people to blog about security in PowerShell, which hopefully will help people in the community. So I'm looking to, this is one of the things I'm looking to do. I don't know if anyone's heard of SharePoint Saturdays. This is kind of like the sysadmin side of B-Sides. It's a one-day event. It'll be in Michigan where it's about PowerShell. Generally, lately, they've been a lot of admin stuff, but I'm trying to get more security stuff in here. But I'm looking to bring this to Michigan. So if you are interested, you need to let me know so that I can do it. I need like 12 more people to say yes, and there'll be a whole day full of PowerShell experts, Microsoft people talking about that stuff. So get a hold of me if you are interested in this. It's going to be on the Detroit side of the state, though, so that's because that's where I live. Special thanks to a couple people. Especially Wolf, Scott, and Matt behind Powersploit. I told him I'd mention it. His stuff is wicked awesome. A very nice guy. You should check out Powersploit if you're on the red side of the house or want to frustrate both. Here's how to get a hold of me. My code is up at GitHub, and there you go. I'm on Twitter, and you want my nonsensical ramblings, there you go. So any questions? What's up? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's a problem because, yeah, I have that same problem too, because some people just paste text up in there and it doesn't format right, or some websites don't like to put tabs in their code. I generally take scripts a lot of the time and clean them up. Like I actually physically do that. That's my mental issues, I guess. But because I like tabs, I like indents, I like certain things the way it look a certain way. I'm not a developer. I like to play one, but I'm not one. But I still like it nice and pretty code. So not really, but some of the editors like PowerShell Plus, I know that's like $199 though. It's like $200, but they do have areas to help indent and make your life a little bit easier. So yes, do they? Okay. I'll have to check that out. Power GUI as well. Yeah, because Power GUI will tie into Visual Studio for you, Visual Studio people. There you go. Power GUI. The train quest. Yeah. So. Yes. Yes. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a, yeah. Yes. Well, PowerShell version 3 actually has some they're now moving from WMI or WMI to CIM because that's actually what it is. And a lot of there's some discovery commands now with SIM to help you go out and pull the information that you need. So it's getting a lot easier for someone to use. I read an article the other day that it said, oh, it should only take you about 10 minutes to get up to speed on CIM and keep on going. So it's pretty cool. Yeah, it is definitely good. Not that I know of. Sorry. But I know why you're asking, so. No, but there are a lot of stuff to help. There are a lot of, there's a guy at F5 who made, there's like a series of posts on that conversion, like MD5. That's a tool that's not built in here. He provides a MD5 script. There's one in PSCX. So there are people who are like, okay, I'm coming from a Unix background. Here's where I need to go. And there are websites out there to help you do that. So besides that. So, anything else? Like learning any other new language, there are gotchas, but yeah, you less than equal to greater than it's dash GE greater than or equal dash NOT is not dash EQ is equal. So there are some it's weird, but when say the first time you picked up a PowerShell script and you looked at something and it was a if statement, it's actually a lot easier to look at that than something else. So you can actually say, if this is not this, then, so it's a little easier to read, but it is a little confusing because when you go put like a lesson in there and it doesn't work, you're like, oh, why is it redirecting to a file name, test? You're like that was I was first day with PowerShell way back in the day. I'm like, oh, I got 100 files named test 1 2 3 4. So that's something that's weird.